You're listening to the 95 Podcast from the team at 95 Network, where we host conversations specifically designed to support leaders in small and mid-sized churches.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the 95 Podcast. This is Dale Sellers, Executive Director of 95 Network. And man, we're so glad that you're joining us today. This podcast in particular, I believe, is going to be very, very touching and very much may hit you in the heart if you're open today. So if you're riding down the road, pull over. If you're not, I'm just kidding. Just prepare yourself today to be open for God to speak to you. I have a friend with me today, and I think we've been friends for 35 years. I think something like that. I have known Dana Russell since the 80s, and I mean, that's just right after creation. So it's just so cool to meet you. So I'll be with you today. So Dana, how you doing?
I'm doing great. It's great to see you.
I'm glad that you're here with me today. There's so much we want to talk about, but just for a few minutes, take a moment and tell everybody, who is Dana Russell?
Gosh, I am a wholehearted creative in many directions. I'm a singer, songwriter, now a book writer.
Ooh.
I'm also do lots of other things to make money in my life, and I've been in youth
That's important.
ministry, and I know very, very important. So we do what we must
Mm-hmm.
for the season. But I've been in youth ministry and several different capacities in church ministry, and just follower of Jesus.
Yeah. Well, people who listen to the podcast know that, the first 10 years that Gina and I were married, we were on the road with a couple of music groups and did about 1,100 concerts all over the country. And that's where I met you. In fact, I was thinking the first time I met you was at, I guess it was Martin 5 back then. I think you were in the process of recording your first album, and we were in the midst of doing one as well. And if I remember, did you have square glasses back then?
They were big. I think they were pretty square, but
Yeah,
they
I
were.
remember you coming through, and I'm going, who is
I think
that?
they're like rose colored. They were rose colored glasses. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, I know somehow after that we began to we got to be friends, and at some point I served on your ministry board, and we've done ministry things together, and it's just our lives have been intertwined off and on for 35 years, and so it's not just having a book writer, which is tonight or today we have you on to talk about your book, but it's a chance to catch up and hang out with a friend, and so. Take a moment and just kind of walk us through what got you to the point to write this book. By the way, what's the book called?
It's called Trading Shadows.
Okay.
And for a long time, I was writing basically journals, kind of a cathartic thing, just because I was in a lot of pain and it was helpful. And I really felt like God was telling me to tell my story,
Okay.
to share it, to be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one particular time when I was watching a Barbara Walters special with Oprah Winfrey.
Mm-hmm.
And she was talking to Oprah about all of her favorite guests. And Oprah's had many, many guests. And Oprah stopped down and said, I believe Quincy Jones would be one of my favorites, all-time favorites. And she said, why? And I'm paraphrasing at best. And she said, because Quincy has, with all of his great accomplishments in life, he is the most peaceful man I've ever known. And she said, when Quincy was on the show, I asked him, what do you attribute the peace in your life? And he said, I have no secrets. And as I watched that, it really hit my heart because that is the great robber of peace in all of our lives. It's the sin, it's the guilt, it's the shame, it's the secrets that we carry. And I really believe God spoke to me at that moment and said, Dana, it is time to step out of the shadow of elephants. And the first title for my book was In the Shadow of Elephants. And the publisher didn't like it. So
what did it mean, shadow elephants?
The big elephant in the room.
Gotcha.
Stepping out of the shadows, because we live our lives comfortable in the shadows. We think we're hidden, we harbor our secrets, but the elephants, they come in, they crowd, they loom large, and then we can't leave. They suffocate us to death. And so it's the elephants in the room, and I just felt that God was really pressing me to go ahead and start the process. I had no idea how to do it, and the first time I ever went to a Christian Writers Conference was in Spartanburg at the Carolina Christian Writers Conference. That's coming up again in a couple of weeks. It's held at First Baptist Church, Spartanburg, and my co-writer is head of that. And I went to that conference with a few little papers and a description of my book, and met several people, and it's small enough to be intimate, personal. And we met lots of people there, but I remember sitting down at a table at lunch with one of the acquisition editors, and she was going around to the little group and asking what our books were about. And I told her about mine, and she said it was very interesting, and if I could send her a proposal, that would be great. So I worked on a proposal, sent her a proposal, and I didn't hear back from her for a whole year. So I thought that was dead in the water. And
Hey, that's all about book writing out there. That's the way it works.
I know it is. And I
Yeah.
just writing. And about a year later, she asked me if it was available. And I said, yes, of course it's available. And she said, how much have you written? And I hadn't written enough, but
Yeah.
I said, I've not written a lot, but I'll start. And she said, great, because we're interested in publishing it. And that's where it happened.
So let me ask you this. How many words is your book?
About 40,000.
Yeah, so when I wrote mine, I wrote 90.
Oh, you're wordy.
And you know me well enough to know I wrote
I
90,000.
do. I know that you're wordy.
And I cut it back to 45,000 because I wanted my editor to really get to know me, So
Yeah.
so anyway, so that's why I asked you that question. So here's what I want to kind of set the stage as we dive into the book. I in the years especially that we were just doing ministry together, you've done concerts all over the country. You've recorded, multiple albums. You've traveled. You've done television. You've done all that stuff. And no one would know you've got any secrets based on who you were then, I guess.
Myself to be.
Well, I mean, yeah, and see, I mean, I'm still trying to figure out, is that really you? Or did you figure this stuff out later, because I've read your book and there was so much in it that I didn't know. And that was like, wow, I wished I had known that. And then I'm thinking, oh, well, whatever, it is what it is now. But I want people to understand you were really, I don't want to say on top of the world, but you were wide open doing ministries. You were doing this, this weekend thing with young ladies. I mean, just you were doing a lot. During that time, was this pain and the shadow and all, was that out front back then for you in your own heart?
Dale, I wouldn't say it was out front because I spent most of my life trying to cover up the fact that I felt not good enough, inadequate, unlovable all of my life. I think I covered that up with music and drama and smiling.
And well, you helped a lot of people.
I meant every word that
I know.
ever. But you don't, when you're walking through life and you're in survival mode, you can't counsel yourself. You're surviving. I was only 20 when I was 20 once. I was 22 when I was 22. I hadn't been down that road yet. I didn't carry this knowledge of the fact that I had all this harbored inside of me, that I was insecure, inadequate. I was always trying to measure up. And I think too, I was always trying to be good enough for God.
Yeah. No, that's why we're friends.
Yeah,
At least we verbalized it.
Like, did I read enough today?
Yeah.
Did I spend enough time in prayer today to be worthy to go out there and minister to these people? Is somebody going to find out that I'm a fraud? I was always thinking I was on the verge of being found out that I was not who I said I was, even though I did everything with 100% of my heart.
Hmm.
100%. I meant what I
Hmm.
said what I meant, believed every word of it, but I didn't always believe it for myself.
Sure. Yeah. I wrote a book about that myself. So I understand completely. So here, let's do this. So let's kind of walk us through how the book lays out. Okay. Um, your revelation moment, take us where you want us to go. Help us to understand.
Well, the book for me kind of starts with an affair that I had at my lowest point of my life. And I start there because that is my pivotal moment of my life. That is the crisis moment for me. And I start there because I wanted to say it and then try to figure out, backtrack all the way back to the beginning.
Hmm.
And I can remember to try to figure out why I did what I did, why I chose to have an affair out of such pain in my life and not go the right direction, not take the next right step, run to Jesus instead of run to an affair. And so really, I think the book, it kind of chronicles what I would call a counseling session, where I say, here, I'm here with a presenting problem.
Hmm.
I had an affair and my life has been blown up to
Yeah.
smithereens. And and a counselor would say, well, what brought you here and where do you want to go from here? What do you want to learn? What do you want to accomplish? And I just wanted to know why I did what I did. And so I had to go back to the beginning. I had to really take a look at my childhood. I had
Hmm.
to ask tough questions about my alcoholic father, um, the other two fathers I had before I was 9 years old that were not very attentive to me, and reiterated the fact that I didn't feel worthy of being loved. My mother, who was a shut down, bitter man hater, if you want to be, and which you knew
She
her
was
very
she was
well.
she was a stone faced woman.
Yes, she had names for everyone.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I heard a few of them.
Yes,
I probably had one of them.
you had one. Yeah, I think everybody had one. And I'm just telling you, she was bitter and shut down. And instead of being present, she was so shut down that she couldn't nurture my sister and I. She couldn't communicate with us. We had a very shallow relationship, which was painful to me. And
You wanted a deep relationship.
I was starving. I was
Mm.
hungry
Yeah.
for, I think, I don't know. I think we're born with a temperament. I think we're born with what God wants us to be.
Hmm.
So, and I just am a people person. I love fun and I love people and talking and I love being hugged and I needed that so badly. And my mom, the best she could do was one of these.
Yeah.
I love.
The pat kind of hug. Yeah.
And I'm like, is this all I get for the rest of my life from everyone? And but I had Sunday school teachers that would wrap me in their arms and tell me how much they loved me. So I was a very confused little girl.
Mm.
And thank God he gave me drama and music young because I got to pour all of that hurt, all of that love, all of that need into my music and theater and um just my little fantasy world.
Yeah.
And, and the book chronicles through all of my life growing up, middle school, high school, college, moving to New York City, pursuing my dreams, chasing my dreams, really running from God, running from a call into ministry, into answering that call, getting married, and stepping into a very successful music ministry, doing 100 dates a year, thinking wow, we finally made it. My
Yep.
life is full. And I'll tell you, it was some of the best years of my life and some of the best experiences of my life.
Hmm.
But as well, some of the most empty experiences in marriage and love and intimacy, because it was difficult to find that in my marriage. And I poured out my love to all the students and the people that we ministered to, and praying with kids and doing the True Love Waits weekends with girls. I mean, it was all just really wonderful to me. And I poured my love out, but I received back from that. And I received from God. I received approval. I received what I felt was success, fulfillment, but my marriage was very empty.
Did you go for help?
Well, as you know fairly well, I tried. And when you harbor secrets, the last thing you want to do is take that walk of shame and have someone find out what's going on in your dark corner of your heart. Um, and I think porn probably is one of the worst. And because I think that is, and I have so many friends, so many family members who are walking the same path with porn and with marital issues today that are worse than what I lived through. And it is a shameful secret that is so deeply embedded
Hmm.
within the person that is addicted to pornography. That shame is so great. Sometimes you would rather lose everything around you, your wife, your family, your husband, your ministry, rather than to admit that you have a problem with that, because it's such a shameful,
Hmm.
sexual, deviant issue that it keeps you bound. And I know that my husband was dealing with it from the time he was 7 years old.
Mm.
And I regret not knowing. I regret not being more of a helper and being offended that he didn't pay attention to me, that
Hmm.
he was intimate with me. I wish I had been a little more merciful, um, knowledgeable. I wish we had gone to counseling. There was financial counseling that was doable
Mm.
for us,
Yeah.
but that really wasn't our issue.
So basically, you had some secrets, your husband had some secrets, and it all just kind of collided.
Yeah. And my secrets were secrets that I really didn't even understand.
Yeah.
My secrets were my family secrets that caused me to be shameful and caused me to feel inadequate, caused me to feel unlovable, and caused me to feel like a shameful thing.
Hmm.
Um,
And see, when you say all this stuff, and like I said, I've known you 35 years, and I knew you in the height of your ministry. I didn't know any of this. I didn't know you were dealing with this stuff, and we're pretty close friends. You know, our families were close. So how did you navigate that? How did you navigate going, man, I am dying on the inside, but here I'm out front. And the reason I ask that is a lot of the people listening to this podcast who are in ministry, some may be in the same boat where they're as far as people are concerned, man, their ministry's killing it, but on the inside, there's an elephant, if you will, in the room. How did you balance that or that tension?
well, I think you busy yourself.
Okay.
If you're feeling that you have such a false sense of responsibility to have it together,
Mhm. Yeah.
to be the face, to be the one who knows how to counsel whoever you're ministering to, has the right answers, spend time with God. People put you on a pedestal that should never be.
Hmm.
And you feel like you can't be vulnerable.
Hmm.
And you also create a machine where you're making a living,
Hmm.
people are making a living off of you and what you do, and you feel responsible because you're taking care of other people. And if I were to break down right now and tell the truth, that whole machine would come to a screeching halt. And I can't afford to do that.
So you had these thoughts back and forth, going, I'm not well, I need help, I'm not happy, or whatever it may be. But you're like, but you chose to keep going, and you made this statement just a second ago, and you said, but you spent time with God. How'd you do that?
Uh, I did, but I spent more time being angry with God and saying, why isn't all this making sense?
Okay,
I'm doing what you have called me to do. I spend time pouring my life out. I spend time praying to you. I try to do all the right things, and I am dying inside. I'm dying inside, and I don't know how to. I didn't know what was going on with my husband
okay,
because every time I would ask him if he was dealing with pornography, he would say no. We would hear other people talk about it, our friends. We would see marriages crumble, and I would again say, are you struggling in that area? And he would say, no, I'm not struggling in that area. And I believed him,
mm,
and there were times he would come to me and say, honey, I've got to repent to you because I'm not loving you the way I should be loving you. And I would just kind of take that at face value and say, I forgive you, and let's just move forward. Let's
mm,
do it better. I was oblivious to what the reality, what the truth was,
mm.
and for a long, long, long time. And I think it just ate me up inside, Dale, until I committed professional and marital suicide because I didn't want to kill myself. I had children, and I didn't want to do that. So I think my only other choice in my head and my sick heart, because hope deferred makes us sick.
Yep.
My heart was sick. I think my choice was marital and professional suicide. And so I dove headlong into an affair when it was offered to me
Wow.
because I was so empty.
Well, you were it was just the wrong place at the wrong time. It was just there it was. But it was you didn't fall into that. You didn't just all of a sudden wake up one day, boom. Everything grew into that. And which is why again we have these type conversations on this podcast is because we have pastors right now who've listened to us for years who know they've got things going on like this and they keep thinking that it's gonna get better, it's gonna work itself out, it's gonna go away, and it doesn't. And so I don't know how to ask this question. You got to the point where you committed. You said you committed. How did you say it? Professional and
Marital and professional suicide.
yeah. Okay, so you did that. Was there a line that you just decided I'm done? Was there something that set it off? Was it just, or you were just like the pressure got too great? What led you to finally take that leap? Is what I guess I'm asking.
Yeah. Well, these are probably things I don't talk about in the book.
Okay.
And
Would you rather not?
no,
Okay.
no, I've determined to be very vulnerable and transparent because I'd rather help somebody than save face, I guess you'd say.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there there were worse things that I didn't put in the book because that's not what the book was about. It was about
Sure.
what God in my life. But there was a time I got really, really sick, and um, my husband was just too busy to notice I was really sick. And in fact, I had to call your wife to bring me Gatorade because I think I was going into shock
Mm.
because I had just lost everything from all ends
You were
and
dehydrated.
days, and I was just dangerously dehydrated. And I lost my vision, and I think that was a line for me. She ran up to me and poured Gatorade down my throat, and all of a sudden my vision came back, and that did something to me. And it was not only it was compounded things
Sure.
begin to compound. I decided to quit talking in the car one day to just see how long it took for him to start a conversation. It was 2 hours.
Mm.
I quit wearing my seatbelt, like I just prayed that God would kill me, I mean, I just really got
So
so
much pain.
low that the only way to stop the pain was to make a change. And
Yeah.
God forbid, I don't wish this pain on anyone else, because I could have made different choices at that
Hmm.
moment. But I felt alone. I felt that I couldn't reach out. I did, in fact, try to reach out to a lot of different people, Dale, not only you and Gina, but to other people. And I got really Sunday school answers.
Hmm.
I didn't get really good answers. People just saying, oh, well, just take up your cross and, you know,
That don't help. That
just
don't help in that time, does it?
your behavior and see if that will change, and at that point, I didn't even know what the real problem was.
Yeah.
It wasn't until that one night that you and I were sitting in my living room, and, you know, I called you over because I knew I was going to confess what had happened in my life, and I wanted you to make sure that I wasn't killed. I wasn't
I remember. I
somebody
remember.
to kill me, because you never know.
Yeah. Nowadays.
Yeah, but after I confessed my affair, he confessed that whole addiction with pornography, and something happened to me. It was like, wow, all these years of asking for attention and love, and it was this, and I got angry.
Mm.
I got angry instead of humble and vulnerable, and I got angry instead of glad that he confessed after I confessed. And I think I made choices to take things in a wrong direction at that point. And I'm just going to say that I don't care what is going on in your marriage, your life. God can God can take that walk of shame and turn it into a walk to freedom if you will allow him to do it. Yes, it's bumpy and it's painful, but there is no greater freedom and breathing lighter and joy-filled life than to walk into the freedom, walk through that muck of your sin, confess everything until everything's out, because the enemy can't use it against you. If
Right.
there's a secret,
Mhm.
there's nothing better than being on the other side and being healed and being whole.
I've referred to this passage a lot, and we're gonna take a short break. When we come back, I want to highlight this passage because it keeps coming up in these type conversations lately. So short break. Be right back with Dana. And we're back with Dana talking through her book, and this is a pretty heavy part of it all. And you just kind of highlighted something that I think we don't do in the church very well. James says, if you confess your faults one to one another, you can be healed. And I've heard that verse, and I don't think it means just physical healing. I think you can be healed in any arena of life, but it takes such vulnerability and trust for us to do that. And truthfully, I don't know that we have those kind of relationships in the church. What is your vibe on that particular thing?
I don't think we did back then. I think we were all trying to serve God the best way we knew how, and we were just running 90 miles an hour, thinking we needed to measure up to different churches,
Mm.
measure up to different pastors, different music artists, different people. I think we get caught in a cycle of that. And I think we all put on our clothes, put on our faces, put on our show, count our numbers, put the money in the bank. Am I being too raw? I
Yeah.
mean, I think we get all caught up in that. Hey, 25 people got saved at my church. We baptized 12. I mean, but do we really make a safe place where people can be real? I think those places are out there. They're few and far between. And even in the best of circumstances that I've seen in the last 20 years, I think there's still room to grow.
Sure.
Um, I think probably the the people that are doing it the best are maybe Celebrate Recovery, halfway houses where people they can't do anything but get real.
Hmm.
The leaders have been where the followers are,
I
and
was I
people
was
are
going to say that because for us to get to that place before our church can get there or whoever we're leading can get there, we got to get there. And we live in a society where our pastors specifically have been trained that we're not supposed to be vulnerable. We're supposed to keep it all inside. We're supposed to suck it up, if you can say it like that. If we're not supposed to have any problems, and it's destroying a lot of our
killing,
ministry.
killing us all.
It is.
And you know what? And we don't look like anything different than the world.
Absolutely. So the name of the book is Trading Shadows.
Yeah.
So what does that mean?
Well, I traded all of those shadows of sin and shame and secrets and everything that I was harboring. I walked through a pathway of trading them all for the shadow of the Almighty. Whoever dwells with the Most High will find rest and peace and freedom in the shadow of the Almighty. And that's what I did. I traded all of that for what God has to offer.
Is there a way you can tell us where we can understand how you did that? What I mean, so okay, it's great. We should do that. You did that. Can you tell me how to do it? You know what I'm saying? I mean, a lot of folks, okay, all right, I know that I'm carrying this stuff. I would love to do what Dana did. I would love to trade those shadows. And and you're quoting Psalm 91. How did you do that in a practical sense?
Well, I would hope that other people wouldn't have to get to that great of a crisis moment
Sure.
to choose to change. And I I think even in the deepest part of the sin of my affair, I was trying to be transparent and honest, even if I was wrong.
Hmm.
And I think there were a few people that loved me enough to tell me the truth, but they listened to me. Even if I was wrong, they loved me and they didn't turn away from me.
Hmm.
And I think we need to find safe people as a church, as a family, as a community. I think we need to create safe places on purpose. They're not, it looks different everywhere you go. And in families, I think families are the first place to start, safe places.
Hmm.
Schools are definitely not safe places these days.
Yeah.
Um, churches, if we will stop being country clubs and learn to be hospitals and create safe places. And I think the vulnerability has to start with a pastor and come trickle down. But I would say what I did in my process was I had to find a safe person and a safe place to spill it all. And Dale, I could not, and I had to walk through that process of talking about what my childhood was like, talking about my life was like growing up as a teenager, the mistakes that I made, looking for love, marrying my husband, going into ministry. I had to go through all that stuff and take a really long, hard look at it. And if we're not in a position to say, wow, I made a really wrong turn there. What I did there was really bad, and own what we did and really take a good look at it. Hindsight is 2020, but not until you turn around and you look in the rearview mirror for a while and stare at it until it is all clear and it makes sense. You've got to stare at it and go, wow, that was not a good choice. That was a detour in what God wanted me to do. But for me, it was not until I found out that the father that raised me was not my biological dad, until all of the pieces started making sense to me. My mom kept a secret from me for 48 years of life.
Mm.
And I could heal with God on the things that I knew, but I couldn't heal about the things that I didn't know.
But you knew something was wrong?
I knew something was
Okay.
wrong. I think children, though they're resilient, they are so aware and they know something is wrong
Hmm.
and they internalize it and think it's just me.
Yeah.
I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Because no one will tell them the truth.
Because they're
So,
protecting them for their own good is the thing people say. So when you walk through all this, did you walk through it with someone, or is it just you pursuing God? How did when you the practical sense of when you made this decision to trade the shadows, and did someone help you?
it was a process of about 20 years. I worked with several different counselors. I wouldn't say I wore my counselors out. I would go for a
Hop
while and
in.
feel better.
Hmm.
And I would meet someone else and I would go to them for counseling. And then I would meet someone else. And I think God took me on that journey because I needed to learn new things from new people
Hmm.
that understood my process a little better than the last person. And
Sure.
I'm not saying I don't advocate counselor hopping. It's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying some people come into your life because they're brought into your life by God to help you discover the next
Hmm.
thing,
Hmm.
the next season, the next level of healing for yourself. And so, yeah, I did. I had to work through several processes. And in working through that process, I got my degree in counseling because I wanted to help and walk others down the same road and
Sure.
help miss the potholes and stay out of trouble and navigate their life a little bit better, like I had been shown. And um, it really wasn't until, I took a weekend that I went away with God. I call it my weekend with the King, my 3 days with the King. And I went away to a house and I left all of my electronics and I took the Bible and a Bible study. And I think you and I and probably every pastor in the whole wide world have quoted Jeremiah 29:11 a gazillion times.
Hmm.
I slapped it on a t-shirt. For I know the plans that I have for you,
Hmm.
plans to prosper you, give you a hope and a future. And but it was like there was another part of that. But if you pray to me and seek me with all your heart, and I don't think I have ever sought God with all of my heart because I don't think I ever had all my heart to seek God with.
Do you now?
Yes, I have a whole heart now. And I really believe that it took going away that weekend and asking God to help me seek Him with my whole heart that I came out of that weekend a different person
And how
because
long how long ago was that?
that was 10 years ago.
And it's been holding ever since, huh?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what we just all need to do. A weekend without electronics would change our whole life for sure. So,
Yeah.
so you've written this book. The publisher reached out to you. They published your book. What is your highest hope for your book? For when other people get it, what are you dreaming and hoping and believing God's going to do with it?
I believe that people will read the book and walk that walk of shame into the walk of freedom. I believe that it can set people free. God can use it to set people free. And I would hope too that people that read it that don't feel like they're in those shadows of shame or have those secrets, have the baggage that other people do. I hope that they'll become what I call second mile friends and throw them a stick and pull them out of the creek and pull them out of the muck and love them back into life.
It's a good hope. So as we get close to the end of the podcast, you're sitting down having coffee with someone today, someone in ministry, could be a pastor, could be a staffer, and they're not doing good, and they've reached out to you, what would you tell them?
I would tell them this day, this moment right here could be the first moment of the most joyous time of your life, the most free, joyous time of your life, to really sell out to Jesus, to believe that he can heal you, he can save you, he can free you, and to not be afraid to take that step, to be transparent and to be honest, and to not live in that prison that they've been living in.
I hope you get the opportunity to do that. So we're going to put your contact information in the show notes and any links that you want to put. We're also going to tell people how to get a hold of your book. I just want you to know I'm real proud of you. One of the things that I told you when I read the book was, I wish I had known some of the other things that I didn't know about things, because it kind of helped you understood more about certain things, how things were going, but it didn't. But the reality is, we've lived through ups and downs and good and bad, and we're still friends. And I think that's the gospel. Thank you so much for taking your time to join me tonight and be part of this podcast with me. And man, like I told you in the other day when I was texting, I hope you sell 1,000,000 copies, because if it can help people to come free, get set free, and stay free, then it's God can God redeems what's happened to us, even with what happened in your life, and He's turned it for something good. And I think it's really beautiful.
Thanks for listening to the 95 Podcast. We look forward to sharing another episode with you next week. In the meantime, visit our website at 95network.org. The website is loaded with great resources created for small and mid-sized church leaders. Until next time, have a great week.